Great. Welcome to tonight's Late Nights with Patrick Miller. Tonight we're going to go over the new patch basically for Rising Thunder. It's we switched from version names to dates for the patches. This is the December 15th patch. And there's a whole bunch of it's mostly balance tweaks, it's mostly and bug fixes, but there is a pretty cool new move in there for Talos we'll go over. There's also some fun changes for Vlad. I say fun more for the people who are playing against him than him himself, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, and if you want to see in the background, we've got my lovely girlfriend Irene Coe over here. Yep, that's my hand covering her. Yep, she's waving. Now where's Frankie Cat? Yay, Frankie Cat.
Who's typing in chat?
Ah. Hi, Frankie. Great. So, new patch shenanigans. Yes. We will go straight into training mode with a new Talos variant. I've been playing around with it off and on for about a week now, and I think it's a lot of fun. So, boom. So the new variant that he has, actually I should probably pick it at this select screen just so everyone can see what's up. But the new variant he has, I've tentatively nicknamed Magnetic Cuddles, and we'll go ahead and just pick it here. Yeah, there we go, Magnetic Snare. I like to pick it. I'll go back to the menu real quick. So I like to choose this. The build that I've been playing around with this is Kinetic Advance, Special the charge variants of your specials 1 and 2. So these are both the grabs that get armor after you hold on for a little bit. You can combo afterwards if you get a big charge on it. The new variant, which is Snare, and then obviously the super. And it's funny because I don't normally play Talos with this build. I didn't really like Kinetic Advance a whole lot. I played Talos for like 3 weeks in the last patch before we buffed him in the patch before. So 2 patches ago I played a bunch of Talos, and I played a pretty conservative neutral game Talos. I used Kinetic Deflect. I went for like kind of more guaranteed damage and more frequent damage over big hits. But this build and this new variant is great for big hits. So to recap, if you're new to this game or new to this character, Special 1 is a command grab, and it's one where it gets more powerful the longer you hold it down. If it plays the cinematic, you can actually combo afterwards. So here, I can go 1, 2, 3, as an example, right? Special 2 is a similar grab, but for anti-air purposes instead. Same idea. And so, if we set him to jump, you can see I get a similar like wall bounce, so I can follow it up after that. Right? I can do all kinds of fun stuff with this. Okay. Now, the new variant, the new toy that we get to play with, is a ground-to-air magnetic pull. So if you've seen his other magnetic move, Magnetic Buster, this is a ground-to-ground, right? And then has an air-to-air version, or air-to-ground, whatever, right? And this is fun, but it's not nearly as fun as the new move, in my opinion, Magnetic Snare, and I'll show you why. It's because air to air means I can start pulling all kinds of shenanigans from when I'm juggling them, right? So Talos as a character tends to go between guaranteed damage and like knockdown mix-ups or resets in the middle of his combos that then reset the damage counter and offer him more opportunities for big damage, which is pretty fun. So for one, he keeps the air to ground, right? And we'll go over this a little bit, but this is pretty useful. But the ground to air stuff is pretty cool too. So normally, without this move, if I get, say, a kick, my options are pretty limited outside of like confirmed damage, right? There's some stuff that I can do, right? I can, let's see if I do it right. Well, yeah, I can Titan drop, and then I can do stuff off there, right? But there isn't a whole lot that I can do in terms of fun resets. For a while, what I was doing was this into back medium, and you see how that kind of pulls them towards me? I was doing that, back medium, and then grab after that. It is a slow one. But it usually looks something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Man, I'm botching today. Like that. Into some guaranteed damage or whatever. But now what you see there is I can do that, right? And that stands them back on their feet super fast. And like his other special 3s, it's cancelable into his other grab. So I can do stuff like this, which is fun. I can also just I can finish it with a hard knockdown, like that. Let's see that again. Oops. That's pretty cool. But there's some more stuff you can do with it. Number one is, and this is actually pretty neat. Art, one of the designers on Rising Thunder, actually had to build this in separately just to make sure it worked. What you can do is you can actually legit combo the super off the special 3. So if you look, the combo meter stays going, and the scaling is like is as though it was a combo. So in that case, we didn't get that much damage off of it, but that's still pretty neat, right? I guess it's scaled because it's off the kick, right? So if we do, say, a full charge grab, boom, boom. That's a pretty good chunk of damage, right? Especially, like, just imagine you're trying to finish that kill and you want a guaranteed super. It's not a bad way to do it. However, guaranteed damage is not what this move is about, right? This is about the sexy resets. So let's go over some of those sexy resets. Your main opportunities are going to come off of a kick or off some kind of wall bounce, right? And remember, when you connect that pull, it lets you buffer into any of the other specials. So it's easy to get this, right? That's some pretty good damage right there, okay? But it gets even more fun, and we're going to go ahead and turn short cooldowns off for this, so we have actual legit cooldowns here. But there's some other fun stuff you can do, like off a grab. So that right there was a little bit over 50%, right? And it relied on a reset, right? But that's exactly what the fun is in this move, right? So just to slow it down there a little bit, what I did was, we can start with a grab. So you do your basic. You do your basic guaranteed damage setup, which is just charge grab, back medium, and then special 2. But then you cancel that. You want to kinetic advance cancel the special 2 into a dash forward, and then another back medium into the special 3. So it looks like this. Boom. Right? So you see what happens there is after I hit that special 3, I cancel it so I start charging, and I have another shot at the grab. And if you get the grab again, then they're in even more trouble, right? So a full string could look something like this. Oops. So stuff like that, right? We can put together a lot of fun stuff. Be careful though, because the pull's range is not quite as predictable as the air pull, which we'll go over a little bit later, or some of his other moves. So what happens is, especially if you try to do back medium into the pull, he has to be pretty low on the ground. So if you find yourself whiffing the pull a lot after back medium, go with a crouch medium instead. It's a lot easier to confirm. So we'll start here. Boom. Oops, messed up. That would have been if they jumped. Yes, absolutely. People can Dragon Punch through resets and whatever, but that's the fun stuff, right? Like, you want to get them mashing whatever it is, right? Whether it's Vandal Hook or a Dragon Punch or whatever, because that's when you get to start playing the game. And once you pick off some of their attempts to deal with your resets, the most common option is just jump up, and so you start charging the anti-air grab instead. You're fine. So. That kind of stuff. So basically, the way you want to think of this move is anytime they're in the air, if Cat, what are you doing? Anytime they're in the air, whether you're juggling them around like this, or whether they're just jumping around, right? You can use this as kind of an anti-air. You can actually use this as an anti-air into super, which is pretty cool. Donk. Oops. Not fast enough. So I think you have to cancel it. You have to cancel it like that. Oh. right? You can also just use it as a regular... Oops. Ah. Oh man, yes, that big old hook will whiff sometimes. Be careful. There we go. So basically, anytime they're in the air, it's usually because you put them there, right? Like off something like this. And if you're packing new special 3 plus kinetic advance, you've got a lot of tools to have some fun, right? Basically, this build is all about having like one knockdown or one grab or whatever puts them in at like an insta chance to lose the round. It's not guaranteed, right? They can guess wrong, or you can guess wrong, and that's fine. But it's you'll have some rounds that just end because they didn't realize they were getting mixed up and they got grabbed twice, and that's it's a pretty entertaining way to play Talos, right? Especially if you're used to being patient, you're used to being like very very gradual and making your way in. Then this build gives you opportunities for a little more shenanigans. There's one more thing that I want to go over real quick with this move, and that's this, the kind of air attract. It's the same as his magnetic buster, but if you don't use magnetic buster much, there's some interesting utility that comes out of this move. Its range is really long, so like I think that's just about the edge of its range. Boom, yeah. And it's pretty much his only real opportunity for chips, so sometimes we'll use it to chip people out. But what I really like it is actually when you combo off the jump light, and it looks like this, right? So, because you combo off a jumping attack, you actually get, oh, that's weird. Okay, my cooldown meters look like they froze. Sorry, but the combo is basically just this, that pulls them in for that, and then that pulls them in for here. And you do a bunch of fun stuff like that. That's exactly it. You get, this basically gives you a clap clap boot, which you get to start your shenanigans from, and then if they're blocking, like this, oops. Huh? There we go. So if you're lucky, you get the charge grab. If not, just hold it on for a second so he's out of block stun. Man. And that's fantastic. You get some nice damage out of it. Also, don't forget that the uncharged version of this grab, oops, when I'm not messing it up, you can kinetic off of it for more damage. Cool. So that's the basics of this move. I will also show something minor, or it's somewhat minor with Vlad. So we'll go ahead and pick Crow into Vlad real quick. So one other thing that we did in this new patch is we changed the collision boxes, basically the hurt boxes for Vlad, to more accurately match the model. Before, pretty much everyone had more or less the same height, and so it didn't really make as much sense when you're hitting stuff, right? So what we did was we changed it to more accurately reflect the model, which means that like his hitboxes are taller. You can do stuff like this, right? So you can just jump and kick Vlad in the face on your way up. It's still a work in progress. We expect that it'll probably need to get iterated on and tested a little bit. But in the meantime, he's super tall. So if you want to start messing around with like super nasty combos against people with taller hitboxes, now is the chance to go wild. It also means you can do stuff like this. Oops. Not like that. That's a relatively minor change. Main stuff that we delivered in this patch. So now I'm going to go into ranked and maybe play some lobbies in a little bit. But I wanted to recap. So I'm going to go to the serious camera mode for a second. Basically, I think that this new variant is actually kind of cool because it gives Talos some pretty compelling extra builds now, right? Now there's a pretty wide range of specialization. Or a wide range of possibilities in terms of what Talos can do based off of his build. I was talking with Godir on IRC about this. It feels like now his options actually feel pretty complete, right? So you can play a conservative kind of more footsies based build where you usually pick kinetic deflect, and you pick the variant 2 versions for his grabs, which are faster and get armor faster but don't get as good damage, and then you pick the shoulder tackle to give you a lot more mobility, and that tool is really good. Like, the shoulder tackle is fantastic. It gives you confirms off a jab, it gives you air and ground mobility, it gives you good pressure. Like, that move is very, very good. The problem is that, and I say problem, but really it's more of an interesting decision that Talos players get to make, is that now you also have this magnetic snare as a pretty compelling option for mix-ups, right? So if you play the kinetic deflect, you can also use advanced, but I think kinetic deflect is probably the safer build. For the more conservative build, the 2-2-2 build, though it's not 2-2-2 anymore, because this move is actually 3.2 anyway. Then what you're doing is you're basically saying, I want more tools in the neutral game, and I want kind of more chances to win, right? But you're sacrificing the potential for big damage. With this build, the Kinetic Advance build and Magnetic Snare and the charged versions of each grab, what you get is you get builds that are designed to like if they're on the defensive for once, if they get grabbed or they get booted or they get swept or whatever, there's a very real chance that they'll end up in a scenario where if they're not guessing right, they lose. They just lose. And you'll find, especially if you're playing new players who don't realize which of Talos' moves knock you down and which ones make you land on your feet, they don't even realize that they're getting set up for they're getting pulled back in for a grab, and that they're about to basically lose all their health or get insta dizzied or whatever. So this is pretty cool, right? Now Talos has a pretty wide range of capability in his moves, and that means that Talos players, like, I really don't think that Talos players, or really anyone in Rising Thunder, should be playing this game with only one build, right? I think if you're doing that, then that's kind of our failure to make a character that has compelling variations and variants, right? What I would do is I would take the kind of the super aggressive build. Like, let's say hypothetically we're playing in a tournament, and I don't want my opponent to adapt to me. The first game, I'm gonna pick the super aggressive build, the advanced build, because I want to just like murder him as quickly as possible. I'm happy to show off some resets, but I don't want to show him as much in my neutral game. So I'm gonna pick that build, and hopefully I get an easy win, right? And I'll keep running it until I lose. And once I lose, that's when I switch to the more conservative build, and hopefully by then I've had some time to download my opponent and their neutral patterns. And if they've had enough time to download me, then we probably want to play a more honest footsies game and bet and make less big bets on resets and stuff. On the other hand, you could also flip it around the other way, right? Like, you could start with a defensive build to kind of learn who your opponent is, and then if you feel like you've got some insight into how they play their neutral game, and you don't need the tackle anymore the shoulder tackle as a crutch in the neutral game, then what you can do is you can build to just murder them and exploit that advantage you have, and without giving them time to adapt, right? The way I think about it is that Talos, especially with the aggressive build, is one of those characters where if you let him lay hands on you 3 times, you're almost definitely dead, right? And this build basically lets those three times happen in rapid succession. You are going to have to get used to people who up back out of your mix-ups, and you'll it's not this build will not always work perfectly the first time, but it will work surprisingly well, surprisingly quickly. And the other thing is, when you play a build that has fewer tools in the neutral, like when you don't have shoulder tackle, it forces you to rely on your other tools, right? Like your stand H, like your sweep, like your stand medium, all that kind of stuff, which is a lot of it's basically good practice, right? Because then you get used to a different tool set for Talos. When you start playing the kinetic deflect build with shoulder tackle, you'll have good footsies that are then augmented by that tackle, right? And when you're playing the other build, you'll have to deal with not having tackle, which means that you'll have to learn to use his tools better. So overall, I'm super stoked to see this new variant, because I think it offers Talos a lot more depth and a lot more fun. Like, I think it's fun playing the neutral game here, and it's fun being patient, but it's also fun to have a character that can just blow you the fuck up. And with this build, he can do it. It's not unfair, at least I don't think it is yet. We'll see. We've got a while with this version, and we might end up making changes to it based off of how it works. But I don't think he has any mix-ups right now which you can't get out of. It's just what this does is that it makes it so that his mix-ups come a little bit faster, and they're a little bit harder to predict or see coming. So that's pretty cool. So now that we've covered the kind of explication part, I'm going to switch back to the game, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can find a match.